Interview tips. If you Google how to nail an interview, you're going to get a plethora of interview tips. But in this video, you're going to get 7 very unique interview tips that are so easy to apply, it's going to blow your mind. Let's get into it. So the interview that we're talking about in this video is the interview that you would have with your direct boss or boss to be. Now, if you're looking at this video because you're going to have an interview with HR, then what you want to do is pause this video and go back and watch the video before this, which is specifically about having an interview with HR, because those tips are completely different than the tips you're about to learn now. And these 2 interviews or meetings need to be handled completely differently. So when you have an interview with your potential boss, here are the 7 tips that are really going to help you. Tip number 1 is actually something that you need to do in preparation for the interview. Now, whether it is an in-person interview, whether it's on Zoom, digital, it doesn't matter. Before the interview, tip number 1 is to take 5 minutes to research the person that you are interviewing with. Now, this is really important. First thing here is, notice I said 5 minutes, not an hour. It's important that you only do this for 5 minutes or even less, because the more information that you have about somebody, the more confused you're going to be with what should you say, what should you not say. Too much information is generally not good. In fact, there are research studies that show that the more information that you get on a certain subject will actually make it more difficult for you to make a decision. So you want to keep it to 5 minutes. Now, how do you want to research the person? The first, very basic, Google them. See what comes up. If you're lucky, you're going to find a video of them speaking. This is gold for you. What you want to do is check out the video. How do they speak? What words do they use? Make note of these. This is giving you insight into that person before you even have a meeting with them. You already can see what type of personality they are, which we'll get into in a minute. The other thing you want to do is check their LinkedIn profile. This is pretty basic. You're probably already doing this, I hope. If you're not, do it. Now, you can do it just maybe 30 minutes before your interview, because again, you're only going to be checking them out for 5 minutes, okay? Look at their profile picture on LinkedIn or anywhere on the internet. What does it tell you? Pictures can tell you a lot about a person's personality. Whatever that first impression you get from their picture, it's probably right. So make note of that mentally. Is this person, do they seem very dominant? Do they seem very sweet? Do they seem very tough? Do they seem kind of laid back and easygoing? Pictures really will tell you a lot about a person. The other thing you want to do on LinkedIn is check their activity, if you can. By looking at somebody's newsfeed or engagement on LinkedIn, it can really tell you a lot about who they're trying to impress, who's trying to impress them, and a lot of other information that could be useful to you during your call. What topics they're interested in or talking about right now that you could bring up during your interview. Now, quick side note, do not say, I saw this on LinkedIn. Do not say, I saw that you posted this on LinkedIn. Don't say that. Just bring up that particular topic casually or as it fits in your conversation. Tip number 2, notice the personality as soon as you do start that interview and adjust accordingly. Now, there are 4 main types of personalities, and for the sake of time, we're not going to get into all of them in this video, but very simply, if you notice from the start of the call, or even if you were able to pick this up by doing your research beforehand, that they are a very, wow, birdie, that they have a very dominant personality, then what you want to do is you're going to need to step down a little bit, meaning that they're probably going to want to do most of the talking and you should let them. That's actually a powerful scenario for you to be in. So in that scenario, all you actually need to do is ask smart, open-ended questions and let them do most of the talking. Tip number 3, turn most of your statements into questions. And the reason you want to do this is twofold. The first reason is because most candidates are not going to do this. Most candidates are just going to give answers in the form of statements. And the second reason you want to do this is because it allows you to capture much more information. And this also goes back to the interview with HR. If you watched that video, it's very, very powerful to ask questions during your interview. You will be shocked at the amount of information that you get that will propel you to the next stage in the interview. Tip number 4, bring up 3 interesting facts about the company, but do it in question form. While you're doing your research on the person that you're interviewing with, you will find some interesting facts about the company, or maybe that person has done a press release or a video talking about something that's happening with the company. So what you want to do is make note of a few things that are going on in the company or have happened maybe recently, and bring them up in question form. So rather than saying, oh, I noticed that you merged with XYZ company, you can turn it into a question by saying, so how was the merger with XYZ? How did that affect operations? How did that affect the marketing department? So you take it a step further rather than just stating that you know certain things that are going on with the company, that you've done your research or you're in tune with the industry. You take it a step further by asking how these things have affected this department or this situation. Tip number 5, when you do answer a question, name drop all day. All day. Name drop. That's life. That's your life. If you want to get the point across faster and be more memorable, name drop. What is a name drop? It is, instead of saying, I can do great things for your company, it is saying, when I worked with Pepsi and Johnson & Johnson, I did XYZ. Pepsi and Johnson & Johnson, I'm name dropping there. Name drops are huge because number 1, everybody knows these companies, or depending on who you're meeting with, if it's a competitor to them and you worked with them, they're going to remember that name and they're going to say, oh, okay, this is what you did for them? Okay, that's something that they're going to talk about after your interview internally. Name drop as much as you can without being weird about it. Tip number 6, answer questions in the form of a story. Okay, so this was kind of touched on in the last tip as well, but instead of just giving a statement or even a question, turning it into a story makes it even that much more memorable. Now, if you can name drop on top of it and ask a question at the end of it, you're essentially wrapping up a few tips in one, and you're creating a killer dynamic where the interviewer doesn't even stand a chance. Tip number 7, I want you to end the interview with these questions. How soon do you need to fill the position? How many other candidates are you interviewing for this position? Now remember, you already know how long this position has been open because if you watched the interview with HR video, I gave you some tips on how to get that information. The other question is, ready? What did you like about the other candidates? Now these questions, you're probably going to be a little bit nervous about asking them, right? If you're shaking your head yes, or if you're like, oh, I don't know about that, just click the like button because I know that you probably feel that way because these are not normal questions to ask. Most candidates will never ask these questions, and the fact that you will immediately puts you on a different level. That immediately says, okay, this person does things differently. They are willing to find out information that nobody else asked. Do you think that that might be somebody they want on their team? Depending on the position that you're applying for, do you think they might want somebody that goes that extra step to ask questions that nobody else is going to ask? Yes. Do this in the interview and watch the difference. I hope you found this helpful. If you did not like these tips or they made you nervous, just click the thumbs down, but click it twice. Little click. If you did like it, please subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss the next video. The next video is going to be about how to run a Zoom interview very, very successfully. I'll see you in the next video.